The scourge of anti-Semitism continues in this country. The hatred unleashed against Australians who are Jewish has been sickening to watch over the past 2 years. We've seen the Adass synagogue torched to the ground in Melbourne, cars burned and sprayed with hateful messages in Sydney, and a childcare centre firebombed, and people threatened by protests deliberately targeting Jewish communities in Melbourne's Caulfield and in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And it's all been inflamed by weekly protests in both capitals, ostensibly pro-Palestinian protests, but really anti-Israeli and often giving vent to anti-Jewish rhetoric. It's been alarming, and apart from threatening and intimidating the Jewish community, it's undermined our national cohesion and challenged our national values. A new report from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry has identified more than 1,600 acts of anti-Semitism over the past year, with the rate of anti-Semitic attacks over the past 2 years running at 5 times what was seen in the decade before. These attacks have traumatised tens of thousands of Australians who happen to be Jewish. Some have left Australia because of it. Others have been forced to contemplate that option in the interests of their families. This is an ongoing national tragedy. If it was happening to any other community, there would be widespread national outrage. If this sort of intolerance is allowed, it will only get worse. And it will be weaponised against other groups too. Christians, perhaps, or Hindus, who knows? Much of this, let's just be calm and frank and factual about it, much of this has emanated from Muslim groups, with hate preaching from imams such as Sydney's Sheikh Ibrahim Dadoon, who led a public celebration at Lakemba the day after the October the 7th attacks. Clearly, latent anti-Semitism has festered in our community because, astonishingly, it was unleashed with instant fury, not when Israel or Jews did anything controversial or wrong. No, it was unleashed within hours of 1,200 Israelis being slaughtered on October the 7th, 2023. Yet, when Jewish babies and children, Israeli girls and young men, mothers, fathers and grandparents, when they were slaughtered, tortured, raped, burned alive and their bodies defiled, that's when the haters decided to hit the streets of Australia and celebrate and denounce Israel and Jews. And even while 251 hostages were violently stolen away into Gaza, and Israeli authorities were retrieving and trying to identify bodies, and before Israel had launched a war in response, the haters of Israel and Jews were on our streets, celebrating a victory, they claimed, and protesting against Israel. It was clear way back then that police and governments were not doing enough. I lamented our weakness back on October the 10th, 2023, and said that police, on instruction from the New South Wales government, had failed. They surrendered the streets to the extremists, and the only people they arrested and dragged away were those supporters of Israel. This is the sharp end of political correctness. This is how the woke crusade ends up. The New South Wales police and government are so scared of confronting Islamist extremists, so scared of being accused of Islamophobia, that they end up enabling anti-Semitism, enabling a festival of hate and oppressing the victims. This is weakness. A country that does not understand how to defend its own values. It was just so obvious right at the start that you needed to clamp down hard on this stuff, and they just let it run. And Anthony Albanese as Prime Minister has been pathetic and remains so. And here we are more than 2 years later, still dealing with hate, still dealing with Australians being targeted in their own country because they are Jewish. This is shameful, and this is a direct challenge to our national values and character. If you think it's got nothing to do with you, then think again, because if they succeed in scaring Jews into hiding or fleeing this country, then they'll come for you next. People don't have to barrack for the Israeli government or approve of everything they do. In fact, people have every right to advocate against any government and any policy. But attacking Jews or all Israelis, that is hate. That is racial and religious intolerance, and that should not be tolerated in this country. And anyone who's not speaking up against this, anyone turning a blind eye to this scourge, well, they are, I'm afraid to say, they are part of the problem.